rock and roll. Welcome, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today, spending your time watching The Gold Brick Road. I am Kenji Shimada. This is Carl Brockman. Have a little bit of a yarn. Oh, mate, Carl, entrepreneur life, hey?
Sometimes
Entrepreneur.
you just get hit by a truck, don't you, Ken?
No, it's It's Jenny. It's Jenny, and today we're just gonna relish and just going there for a moment, you know. Like obviously, there's a lot of positive stuff out there of building your own business, and not saying this isn't positive either, but damn, there's some challenges that come up, you know. We've just been discussing, or even for myself, just feeling into when they come, I can just notice it in my being. It hits me, like you say, it's heavy and the weight of the world feels like it's on my shoulders, but we make choices in our lives, right? We whether do I let that weight take me down? Do we have a moment to keep it real, Carl? And do we have some moments to share, honestly, get through it, and just keep moving on again, with a strong mind. So I know we've been on a journey, man. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm still picking myself up after the truck incident. Look, I think it's such a good question, and like you pointed to, Kenj, it's so easy just to say, "Fuck the world, burn it all to the ground." Why are we doing this? What are we doing here? We spent so much time, so much money, so much of my life. Um, it's so easy, and I guess the more and more that you pick yourself up, the more and more that you move through these things, not, I guess not the easier it gets, but the easier it is to get back on track, to get back on the gold brick road from my perspective. And
Mm,
something that I guess I'm grateful that I has become more of a default for me is seeing the opportunity in things, seeing the
mm,
positive in things, seeing the silver lining in things. And that personally helps me not burning everything to the ground,
mm-hmm,
not kick everything off my desk and throw books in the air.
mm,
And I think the other part of it, which has is just super in my face right now again, is just what is there for me to own and control? You
mm.
know,
Yeah.
like that for me helps simplify what I'm looking at. That
Yeah.
weight, the noise, the the to help limit the extension of proliferating that negative thought or those negative
Mm.
emotions. And
Not letting that noise get to you.
yeah. And I'm trying to, I think it's important to be practical. It's really easy to sort of say insights and yeah, there's this quote and now I'm wise, right? And for me, the practicality in it, I think, is to just always take a minute and to stop yourself from allowing action to come from an emotional place. I think that would
Mm.
be the first or the most important thing that I've come to learn is when that truck hit me, instead of getting on with it or panic stations or calling up you, Kenj, and figuring it out with you or going across the pond, going to speak to my partner, like just bringing the whole world into it, just be with it for a sec.
Mm.
For me really helps. But yeah, what about you, Kenj? That truck didn't just hit me, and I'm curious. I'm curious for you. What's there for you, man? And what's in it all for you?
Oh man. I think for me it's like you said, I always take a minute, I always try and rationalize, I always not rationalize as in be rational with it, stay with it calmly. And I think a lot of learning for me is I can always just be nice and always put myself in other people's shoes and see where they're coming from and understand. And these days, I think more and more, and it's really important, and not to let it overwhelm me. But if frustrations are there, it's okay to sort of let that out in a mindful way. Just express, hey, these are my feelings. I am frustrated about this, or I'm challenged with this, and let people know because then I don't think I get to have that honest dialogue with people, I'm always holding something back and it's deeper within. And, it's also, I think, a fear of mine that's been, if I was to allow these feelings to come up, it would, overwhelm me and I would act irrationally but I'm just noticing more and more that as long as I can own it, say it, but still, be there with it and not let it tarnish, how I still hold myself has been a really important lesson of how to be honest, keeping it real. In my kung fu practice, it's all about keeping it real, man. And what is it to be keeping it real? I know we always go out there, talk to people. Hey, how you doing? How's work? Oh, doing great, mate. Doing great. You don't want to spill all your emotional beans, but there's a sweet spot, and I think that's been a lesson for me of expressing how I am still challenged, but how we are still learning. And I really relish, even having a conversation like this that I am challenged, and I think that's even my personal relationship has been a journey for me to let my partner know that I'm in a difficult situation right now. I'm not lost in it, but I am in a challenging place, because it's if you're so
Mm.
close to somebody, you share their feelings and yeah, just to be honest, I think.
Yeah, yeah. What's as a recovering nice guy, it feels like it's in my nature just to sweep things under the rug or to not. Yeah, I guess that there is that still line that I'm working to find.
Mm,
What is being honest and articulating what's there for me, and what is just, I guess, what's necessary, Kenj, is how I help.
mm.
What helps me find that line and be okay if I'm not always sharing everything there for me.
Yeah, and I was actually curious, man, because you said that you're always looking for, the opportunity in the moment.
Mm.
And I know that we are both, recovering nice guys. And I don't know, how's that journey been to implement that? Because it's so easy to, I'll look at the positives, I'll look at the positives. But I know
Mm.
it's been a journey for you to make sure that looking at the opportunity has been from a place of keeping it real,
Yeah.
not to just over positivify. But how's that been? And how's the integration?
Yeah, well, I think that authenticity is the basis of doing that and doing that well.
Mm,
If you are speaking for the sake of speaking, giving everyone else your shit, lying to be black and white, then anything that you articulate that's positive or negative isn't actually real. It's like you can't even trust
mm,
yourself. You don't even have that relationship with yourself. And so, growing up in my 20s, like I resonate so much with you mentioned just at a networking event. Hey, yeah, I'm Ken. Nice to meet you. Yeah, things are going well. So many of us have just this caricature or persona that we wear to our 9 to 5, we wear to work. Like this thing
oh
almost
man.
destroyed me. I used to say it was a
Mm,
work Carl and a personal Carl. And when I burnt all
mm,
those bridges, naively, impulsively, over time, I'm so grateful that I did. Uh, I made a promise to myself that I would never live my life that way again. And
mm,
so that for me has helped find what's necessary again. Like, who am I doing this for? Who is it for? I'm
mm,
just thinking about a recent experience that we both shared, and does it even serve me to share the totality of what I think? And I guess as I develop a relationship with myself, that becomes more and more obvious.
mm,
But then, again, it's a line. I can reflect and be like, oh, well, I could have been firmer there. I could have not accepted that there. I could have been strong there. But yeah, for me, like the evolution of nice guy of just letting everything go so it's okay for them and not me to where I am now. And if they need it to be okay for them, they need it to be okay for them. What's going to make it okay for me?
mm,
Not always necessarily getting things off my chest
mm,
or forcing my own narrative on them.
mm. But I think we've talked about a lot, and your journey you've shared with me a lot, and I know that I feel for yourself, like you said, not to share everything in totality, but catharsis is still necessary,
Mm.
right, as a person. And I felt like you've cultivated a skill to ask the right questions to get that catharsis as well.
Ah, yes, man. Well, look, I'm getting better at giving myself credit.
Yep.
However, yeah, just questions to really get to what someone's perceiving, how they're seeing things, and what they're actually objecting to or looking at or have a problem with.
Mm,
Uh, Questions are such a powerful tool just in your toolkit as a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, as a human, right?
Mm,
I realize actually when my partner and I have the most conflict is when I haven't asked enough questions. And it's again, it's not
mm,
to just, it's definitely always her way and she's always right. Women are always right. I'm right. I'm sorry for not, I'm sorry for implying not so, but it just means that like if I haven't worked to see her perspective, then I am always going to come across as defensive or emotional or I'm
mm,
not going to be heard the other way around.
mm.
So so yeah, I don't. It's easier if we had a context to sort of point to here, but in a disagreement with a person, questions can either verify my understanding of where they're coming from and know that it perhaps isn't in their best interest, or they see it that way and there's nothing I can do about it, or they lead them to a perspective shift or revelation. They they help get past the perceived certain logic that they're operating from.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you see in that? Because I can only see it from my subjective view.
Oh no, I've just learnt so much, from yourself of how to ask a good question, and I know that if it's coming from a place that's going to scratch my itch, I think that's been the most important, because I've got so much to say, and like you said, to dump that all in one instance is not the most powerful thing I can do, but it's in this moment, and this is the challenges, right? Like, how do you stay calm in the heat of the moment to be able to drop down to a place, find that thing, and figure out what I'm really trying to understand by the things I would like to say, but how could I turn that into a curiosity and a query? Is this thing that I'm learning more of?
Yeah, I love that, Ken. A recent example with one of our clients, we were speaking about his relationship with an employee, and this employee has been tripping up quite a lot, and perhaps they might need to make a more firm decision on the future of him within the company. However, as we were sort of exploring the recent conversations and where it was up to and what the opportunity areas are, this client asked me because we've worked together for a while now, and he's like, how do you have the solution but not give it to me? Like, how do you sit firm and ask the question or verify it with me? Like, just how do you control that impulse? And
Mm,
again, what came out in the moment stream of consciousness was that, well, whose answer is it for to get? Because it's not important that I have the answer here.
mm,
It's yours. And so if I articulate the answer to you, you'll only get what you perceive of my articulation and how that applies to your context. But if you say the answer, you have the answer. You've come up with the answer. And that mapped into his relationship with his employee. He was fix this, do that. This is the way. This is what you need to do. This is what's not acceptable.
mm.
But rather, like you were pointing to, Kenj, creating the opportunity to verify it from him. Verify what's acceptable or not, what the standard is or not, what the way to go about it is or not.
And mate, with that, the greatest thing that I've learned and still learning is the nature of patience. Right. Oh, mate. And I love the one of the quotes. I'll be paraphrasing, but from one of the books, Philokalia. It's like fifth century Orthodox Christianity, Eastern, and it was just a definition of patience, and it's accepting and seeing the invisible till it becomes visible, right? Like knowing and just having that time. It's not sort of like I hope it does. It's just knowing that it will. And that's been a massive journey to hold back. And like you said, is it mine to know or is it someone else's? And I know that I've faltered, many a times with family. Sometimes you just smash it in their face. Why don't you see it? But today for us, Goldbrick Road and the Goldbrick Road for us has been learning more and time again. What does it mean for us to step into challenges, own our part? How can we learn from it? What's that journey? We thought we'd share that with you guys today. Hope you enjoyed. Outside of that, Carl, did you want to say anything to our audience before we finish?
Yeah, it's like the gold brick road isn't this perfect, pretty path that one day you find and then you just get to walk on challenge free forever.
Mm,
Like you mentioned in a previous video, Kenj, the Buddha found enlightenment, but that's when the journey started. And for me, yeah, to have a think about what knocks us off the gold brick road and how do we get back on? How do we remind
Mm,
ourselves of what it's for, what it's all about, what's in it for us, and ultimately work with that understanding as well as our current environment, the current situation, to limit the consequences of being knocked off for a long time. Those things can easily bleed
mm,
into everything. And I'm sure
mm.
a past Kenj and a past Carl would have let that truck ruin a week, a
Oh,
month even.
mate, been there,
But
done that.
we're now here and we're smiling, and how fucking good. Man, there's a couple of
Amen.
bleeps. I'm sorry, Kenj.
Yeah, all
Uh,
good, all good. Big kids
but no,
watching this show, so it's all good.
yeah. What do you guys do to get back on the Goldbrick Road? What is that
Yep,
for you? How do
yep.
you work
Thank
through
you.
this stuff? Mm.
That's it. Post it on the comments. Like, subscribe, hit us up if you want to get in touch. goldbrickroad.com.au. You can check us out, email us. But apart from that, once again, thanks for joining. Carl Brockman, appreciate your time as always, and we shall see you next time.